Somalis have taken over the entire government of Minnesota. I'm not exaggerating. You are about to witness the disturbing reality that every level of government in Minnesota, from the governor's office to the courts to the police forces to the city councils, have been infiltrated and are being controlled by Somalis. And that's precisely how they got away with stealing over $9 billion. Make sure you watch this till the end. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. But let's start with a Minnesota judge overturning a guilty verdict for a Somali man who stole over $7 million in taxpayer money.
Big reversal in a $7.2 million fraud case in Hennepin County. The judge has thrown out the jury's guilty verdict.
This wasn't some technical hiccup. These fraudsters, Abdelfattah Yusuf and Lul Ahmed, were convicted on 6 counts of charges, months of evidence, a jury that deliberated for hours, all erased in one ruling.
Yusuf and his wife Lul Ahmed were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant or PCA scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money.
And here's the part that rattled people inside the system. The judge didn't say the fraud didn't happen. She said the state couldn't prove who was responsible, which raised this question on everyone's minds. If a case this obvious can't hold, what happens to the rest? Because this ruling hit while Minnesota is already buried under billion-dollar fraud scandals, overseas money trails, and growing federal probes into how taxpayer money keeps disappearing. And here's the twist most people missed. Once that verdict collapsed, the issue stopped being one defendant. It became about whether Minnesota's system can still enforce fraud at all, or whether the feds are stepping in because the state no longer can.
When even the judges adhere to a two-tiered system of law and order that provides preferential treatment to Somali foreign nationals and overturns guilty verdicts made by juries that were provided insurmountable evidence to prove the guy is guilty, it means you are being conquered. And the consistent theme you'll see throughout this entire video is Minnesota is in fact being conquered, and the Somali community has warped the entire system in Minnesota to their sole benefit. The Somali community has claimed Minnesota as a territory of Somalia, and because they don't have rule of law back in Somalia, they demand being excluded and excused from being bound by the rule of law here. But here's the lieutenant governor of Minnesota, the second most powerful politician in the entire state, right under Tim Walz, a white Catholic lady wearing a hijab and speaking Somali and saying Minnesota is actually Somalia. Watch.
Assalamu alaikum. My name's Peggy Flanagan. I am the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, and I'm really honored and humbled to be here with all of you today. I am incredibly clear that the Somali community is part of the fabric of the state of Minnesota. I think about my friendship with Nimco. We've been friends for almost 25 years. And when I think of being part of Minnesota and growing up here, the Somali community has always been a part of my Minnesota. So I want to just encourage the community to know that we're with you. We've got your back. I am here shopping today, and just encourage other folks to show up, support our Somali businesses, support our immigrant neighbors. And I know that things are scary right now. And just know that there are more people who are looking out for you. There are more people who are here to support you than you know. I will continue to stand with the Somali community to be with you and to do all I can to return the friendship and community that the Somali community has shown me. Thank you so much.
When immigrants come to your country and demand that you must assimilate into their culture and language, you are being conquered. This is a white Catholic woman who performatively wore a hijab to publicly display her submission to the Somali people. We've already seen the white mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, who now gives every public address in Somali. The Attorney General of Minnesota was exposed for taking hundreds of thousands of dollars in in donations from Somali fraudsters to protect them and go after their enemies. Every time they regurgitate their gaslighting propaganda that Somalis are part of the fabric of Minnesota, what they're implying is that Minnesota is a territory of Somalia, and they're trying to psychologically pacify their public into accepting that they've been invaded. When government officials have to adopt the values, the culture, and the language of another foreign nation, that's an invasion. And here's the police chief of Minneapolis saying they updated the uniforms to adhere to Somali culture.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Thank you so much, Holy Man. Thank you, Amina. Thank you, everyone here, Sheikh, everyone, for welcoming me. I'm new to Minneapolis. I've been the police chief here since November. So I'm incredibly thankful for how loving and how welcoming, how receptive everyone has been here. I come from Newark, New Jersey. My wife actually is Muslim. So I'm very aware of the Muslim community here, the Somali community here, the immigrant community here, and our need to partner better with all communities throughout the city. And we're doing things to try and reach out to all communities. And one thing that is new now in Minneapolis that we just announced just a week or two ago is we changed the uniform policy for Minneapolis police now. So now the hijab is a part of the uniform for the Minneapolis police.
When the police force changes their uniforms to the satisfaction of foreign nationals, you've been conquered. The pandering we're seeing here isn't just regular performative liberal virtue signaling. This is acquiescence. This is subservience. This is elected officials knowing that if they want to stay in office, they must bend the knee to the Somali community. And they use this political leverage and control to perpetrate their massive $9 billion welfare fraud scheme. These politicians are assimilating into the culture of people who openly robbed welfare programs meant for American children. And these politicians can't even pretend to be oblivious, because here's a Somali city council member saying he really doesn't care at all about America. His interests are that of Somalia.
aniga maadaama nin Soomaali weyn aad iyo aad u weyn tahayna oo ku qasabsan inta taageero other thing runtii markii la ka hadlayo anaga as far as the vision of this urur ma aha le dalkan ma aha le Mareykankan. I think dad badan markii ka hadlayay ma la xariijinayay Minnesota iyo Somali community runta beenta intii la iska daayay way Soomaalida Minnesota joogo wiligood maxay ku xiran yihiin Soomaalida dalka joogo ma garateen ururkan wiligood ma ka bixi karto anaga hada Soomaali nahay si u dadaali karnaa ya siya wadankeeni iyo dadkeeni iyo dalkeeni si loo caawiyo anaga soo keenayno resource ka hadda haasano oo Mareykanka noo fadhiyo hadii walaalahayn yihiin oo xil haastaan kuwa fadlaka fadhiyo so runtii it's a really important and anigana maxaa dhahayaa hambalyo aad iyo aad qof kasta oo Soomaaliyeed inta taageeraan insha Allah.
That is why when we Americans express such frustration for the Somali community at large, it's not even specifically about the fraud, which, yes, thousands of them engaged in. It's about the mindset that they are so unapologetic in expressing that they don't care about America. In fact, they hate America, and their only purpose in being here is to rob, cheat, and steal the American system for the betterment of Somalia. And if you thought all of that was bad, here's the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, affirming that Minnesota is in fact Somali territory, and if ICE agents don't leave, they are going to get killed.
I am increasingly concerned because of the chaos that is being caused by these ICE agents that somebody is gonna get seriously injured or killed. Somebody is gonna get seriously injured or killed. And whether that is an ICE agent or a community member, we all know the tinderbox that could explode because of it. We all know that the federal government is looking for reasons to deploy more and more people to Minneapolis and blue cities around the country. We all know that we cannot afford to lose a single Minneapolis resident because they showed up and decided to protect their neighbors.
When the mayor of an American city is telling the federal government that they are prohibited from deporting people back to their home country, that's because they think Minnesota is their home country, because they've conquered it. Think about it. A mayor just told the federal government to stop enforcing the law, otherwise they'll be met with deadly violence. If that's not an insurrection, I don't know what is. This treasonous behavior from American politicians is going to cause tensions to reach a boiling point. Americans are going to get fed up with a bunch of third world Somali migrants openly declaring their allegiance to their home country, openly bragging about their shared common goal of taking whatever they can from America to enrich Somalia, and then taunting us to our face that we can't do anything about it because they all are US citizens. When a mayor is willing to threaten the federal government to protect a community of foreign nationals, it's totally understandable how they were able to steal over $9 billion. Because this next clip shows that they weren't even trying to hide it. The fraud was literally right out in the open. Watch this.
Here in Minnesota, massive fraud is taking place within the government and the Somali population. Here, this building alone, Quality Learning Center, is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong and they said leering. This daycare alone in 2025 has received $1.9 million from the government. And the strange things about these childcare centers is there's no one here right now. It's midday on a weekday. And if you were to try to go inside, it's completely closed and the windows are all blacked out. No one's working, midday, children should be in here, and this place is licensed for 99 children, and this is the outside. There's no windows, no nothing, and like I said, they literally spelt the word wrong on their sign. This is open and blatant fraud taking place here inside of Minnesota. The government is complicit with this, and this is just one of the hundreds of child daycare centers here inside of Minneapolis being ran by the Somali population.
When migrants are able to receive millions of dollars in tax money for a learning center, that sign on the building doesn't even spell learning right, you've guessed it. You've been conquered. If the Somali people were only a small percentage of the ones committing the fraud, maybe there'd be a different conversation here. But when you look at their control over all aspects of government in Minnesota, and then combine that with 90% of the people charged in this fraud scheme were Somali, as if they all just got the memo, as if they were in a group chat telling the whole Somali community that the taxpayer was ripe for picking, then the dots start connecting in a way that really pisses Americans off. And if you want to know how a child learning center was able to get away with misspelling the word learning on their sign, well, that's because the state of Minnesota refused to do any site visits for places they were sending millions of dollars to. Watch this.
This going back to 2013 with CCAP. This is where it started, but there's at least an annual site visit in there. In these 14 high-risk programs right now, Jason, site visits aren't even required in many cases. We actually had a recent jury conviction get overturned by a judge here in Minnesota. And in that case, a DHS investigator stated that, well, we couldn't go investigate it to find out that this business was just simply run out of a P.O. box and was legitimate. We can't afford to do that. But for some reason, we can now afford anywhere from $8 to $19 billion in fraud, but we can't afford to do site visits. And one of the funny videos you'll see out there recently is Nick Shirley coming to Minnesota, a learning center, except the problem in this case, and this is how you know these site visits aren't actually occurring, because on the side of the building it says Learning Center. They couldn't even spell learning center correctly. And that just goes to show how deep the fraud is and how people are unwilling to investigate it at all. It's absurd.
Like, guys, I'm not even gonna make a joke about being conquered because you get it at this point. I need to see Donald Trump arrest people, top down. Otherwise, I will lose any faith that we have a chance of saving our country. We are seeing people from backward, barbaric third world countries plagued with corruption, violence, and piracy impose their way of life on Americans. And white liberals in Minnesota are enabling it in the name of inclusion, acceptance, and diversity. And if this is allowed to continue, ladies and gentlemen, we will not have a country for very long. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.